Alright, let's look at how the c value can affect the parent function's graph. So if I sketch in red the parent function, y equals the sine of theta, remember I have zeros at 0, pi, 2 pi, a maximum at pi over 2 and a minimum at 3 pi over 2. So there's my parent function in red. So now let's look at the child function, y equals the sine of theta plus pi over 2. First of all, notice the use of parentheses. This is what tells you that this is a c value as opposed to a d as in dog value. Okay? Well, what we find out is that positive pi over 2 shifts the entire parent function, which again was in red, to the left a value of pi over 2. So this maximum that was at pi over 2 minus pi over 2 is 0 radians, so the maximum would become at 0. This 0 that was at pi minus pi over 2 becomes pi over 2, so the 0 is now at pi over 2 radians. The minimum, which had been at 3 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2 minus pi over 2 is pi, so it's now at pi radians. And the 0 that was at 2 pi, moving to the left, pi over 2, ends up at 3 pi over 2. And so finishing out the pattern, we realize we need another maximum here at 2 pi, and so we get this child function here in the blue. So now, what if we look at the parent function, y equals the sine of theta, and compare it to the child function, y equals the sine of theta minus pi over 4? Well, if adding shifts everything to the left, then subtracting a c value must shift everything to the right. So again, I have sketched my parent function in red, here with my zeros at 0, pi, and 2 pi, my maximum at pi over 2 and my minimum at 3 pi over 2. Now I'm going to just take each of those points and I shift them to the right, a value of pi over 4, and I now have my child function. I need to make sure that I go back, though, and label each of those pairs on my radians axis. When I do that, you'll notice that we now have a 0 at pi over 4, a maximum at 3 pi over 4, a 0 at 5 pi over 4, a minimum at 7 pi over 4, and our next 0 is outside our standard interval, but it would be at 2 pi plus pi over 4, which would make this 9 pi over 4.